radiating into space. And as you can see, there is more coming out than is going in. It's kind of like the infinite ATM machine, where you can go and just keep taking out money again. It just keeps appearing, day after day after day. Now, a lot of astronomers and a lot of physicists think that they have a handle on where this apparent magical contradiction of the second law of thermodynamics is in fact coming from. They think that, in fact, Jupiter is still shining, in essence, still radiating from that collapse phase I discussed a few minutes ago that gave birth to the miniature star in the Jovian system called Jupiter until the
Here's the location of the new triangle, sunrise, moving into mid-morning. And
this is the subjective or artistic impression. If this is you at the most extraordinary living work of art by minds and engineering sufficiently in advance of ours to understand the complicated and subtle interplay of light and shadow on this structure, designed to produce a day-long Martian tableau of what the face on Mars is supposed to represent, which seems now strongly to have something to do with the evolution of the form we see down there. When we come back from our break, which will give everybody about 15 minutes to go out, get a breath of fresh air, get that gorgeous sun out there and those incredible mountains. So by this token, the planners of the Pentagon, once the face had been identified, would have laid a couple of, nukes across it and it would be gone. Based on the fractal model fit computer program, which says if it's bright, it's artificial, go clobber it. But of course, it's bright, it's artificial, and it's on. Based on that, and the fact that none of the other, with the exception of a couple of things in the city, none of the other forms gave us this really strong hit, such as this. What I said, again, in Monuments, now like 10 years ago, was that if and when we ever have all lighting and viewing angles, in other words, I always believed that the face was a manufactured object. It was built by high technology, it was built with structure, with beams and girders and super strength materials or whatever, but it was a sophisticated construct placed where it was to replicate this stunning geometry. It was not pretty awesome, because when you look at the detail in the final enhanced form, and we have brought to bear on this a program that NASA actually used in their own activities during the Hubble years when the mirror was, out of focus and astigmatic and couldn't be, used because of the ill focus. They developed a program and refined it called maximum entropy deconvolution, which basically can take a certain amount of blurring out of digital or other kinds of imagery. It can reconstruct the original form of the object based on certain theoretical laws of optics and digital coding and encryption and things like that. What we have done is to apply this very sophisticated program, which we actually had to get from Canada, to the data from Mars Surveyor. And this is very new information, it's brand new, it's kind of in a test mode, so I haven't put this on the web yet because frankly I'm still looking and trying to decide what certain parameters are. But what it shows us is some pretty awesome specific details. Let me give you one, although not at this lighting from the Viking data. This other side is the feline side, which we now see in pretty exquisite definition based on the new Surveyor image after we work to clean up the noise. What I'm going to do is to zoom in on the eyebrow ridge over the Viking side, over the side that is hominid, and show you why it looks hominid as the lighting is going down in the west. All right, let me go to here. Let me go back. And this is why it appears hominid. Because here, all of it straight across, you have these two little guys up here, which form the center line. Okay, let's go in and take a look at this form. I don't know how well this shows up, but under really high magnification, you can now see in this enhanced form that there is grid work. There is structural lattice work with little cells and beams and stuff. And let me pull up the other graphic where I have actually described this, if I can find it. It's like notes here. No, this is the wrong one. Okay. This shows the pyramid, all right? And it shows, by the way, the pyramid as it exists, as it creates this hominid-looking form. Notice here's the eye cavity, and notice the shadow cast by the pyramid, which is this guy here, is what creates the impression of the eye cavity on this whole side of the face. And it's lit now from this angle up here, so that it does not appear to be doing the same thing on the final form. Oops. Not good. Okay. There. All right, let me go find that other one. Version. We zoom in here. And if you look very carefully now, you'll see that the region up here is this. It's a cage of vertical stuff, looking kind of like shattered girder work in the Eiffel Tower, Cydonia. And paraphrasing, Jason said, that Dr. Malin said to him and to all assembled, it's been taken out of my hands. It's with the project, meaning it's with a bigger group of NASA people than the small in-group, which we strongly suspect has been controlling this data for the last 10, 20, or 30 years. Given that it's in the larger context of NASA, its public image, doing the right thing, gaining support from people on the Hill, for looking responsive, given Dan Golden's commitment at the Freedom Foundation that he would try to take pictures. Interesting discovery right off the bat, okay? And let me bring up this other image by way of comparison to show you something important. All right. Okay, notice here, just south of the main part of the city, on this region, there appears to be kind of almost like a tailgate. It looks symmetrical. It appears to have a wall that comes out here, a wall that comes out here. Sunlight's coming in from this direction, as you can tell by these guys are like a mile on the side. And we're not talking small stuff here. We're talking big stuff. This is a little bit larger than the Giza Pyramid. It's about 1,000 feet. The Great Pyramid is a little over 700 feet. So this is comparable to what we would see in Egypt on the Viking data, but at this resolution, you really can't tell anything. So now we get into what we found from Global Surveyor, which is this image, and a comparison. And you saw this comparison piece that I did for UPM. This is an aerial photograph of the Giza Plateau with the Great Pyramid, the Khafre Pyramid, and the Mycerinus Pyramid off to the left, down there at the bottom edge. In fact, I'll move this to the left so you can see the whole thing. Over here, we have that ledge in the southern part of the city, and we have this object. And this object, as I said to Tammy Taylor, if you look at how pyramids form, if you look at the wedges that looking straight down on a square pyramid gives you, here we have a wedge. Here's another wedge. Here's a third wedge. Here's a fourth wedge. In other words, this thing same scale as Giza, looked at from 100 miles up with the Mars Surveyor spacecraft, and it sits in the southern part of the Cydonia region of the city. In a minute, you are in big trouble, because it means that the system is closed. It means there is nobody home. The lights are on and there's nobody home. Or they're home, but they have a very different agenda politically than you do, and there's no way you're going to bring them over to your side because their side is already very firmly fixed. Now, the good news is we outnumber them. We pay them, we keep NASA's doors open and their lights on, and we outnumber them. That's why faxes to Golden and very gentle demands that we get more data while we have this unique window, this extraordinary opportunity between now and September, is very, very important. Because we need comparative stereo of this object. Now, why do we need comparative stereo? Well, let me show you a kind of a puzzle about this image, all right? Has anybody noticed it already, that there appears to be some kind of northwest, southeast trending alignments covering this whole image, kind of like this? And then there's other lines that go like this, across. Tilt your head kind of to the left just a bit, and you'll see this more clearly. Now, let me show you again another experimental enhancement, which demonstrates that we're dealing with something kind of funny going on this image, on this first image of the face. Okay, I think this is it. Yes, that's it. And again, this one is a big file, so it will take a moment to load. Okay, what I've done with this is I have rotated the image by 35 degrees relative to the north-south alignment of the image scan from Surveyor. And we have also subjected it to this process of maximum entropy deconvolution. And we've done a couple other things. We've done a high-pass filter, which takes out low-frequency noise. And anyway, let me now go in and show you what this object, this Giza-sized pyramid, looks like when we can see very high-resolution form. Now, do you notice the northwest, southeast trending lines on the pyramid? All right? No, these are not blocks. These are not how the darn thing is built. At one level. Notice that even below and above, and let me back out here because we're a little bit too close. We're suffering what I call the Gigi problem. All right? You know the song Gigi? Have I been standing up too close or back too far? Part of this investigation involves over and over again the Gigi problem. You're either too close or too far away to see the things you want to see. Well, it worked in San Diego. Thank you. Anyway, what this is a pretty amazing confirmation of another model that I proposed. I strongly felt that it had a very Egyptian feel to it. And then, as I got more into it and began assimilating the Viking data and what we thought we knew about Mars and about the environment and its geological history, it became more and more apparent that Egyptian civilization was not on the cards. For one thing, there wasn't anywhere near the amount of time required to evolve a sophisticated, intelligent life form on Mars because of its own history simply didn't make that possible. So then we began looking at what I call the migratory model, which is if somebody came from some of the star system with a space technology significantly in advance of ours, maybe not warp drive, Mr. Scott, but something pretty neat by our standards. There's a lot of models in the literature, Robert Corbridge's work, light sails, fusion rockets, Orion, nuclear elements because of millions of years of erosion. And at the top, if we back up here, you can see that erosion, in fact, has taken its toll. because over here on the image, right in this region, you can see that the top, the apex material has been exposed, and we get all kinds of neat, blocky looking things, which turn out to be very near the structural apex of this. And you know, the resolution of this equipment does not seem to be appearing or improving with age, unlike the builders. I don't know whether I've got another image of this, but I can go to some others and show you details at another level, which is pretty amazing. There are also details of this form which do not appear natural. When an astronomer would look at this, instantly they would say, oh, we're looking at a crater. In fact, there is this very strange geometry. Notice how this geometry goes across the crater. And some of it's interrupted by the crater. All right? This implies we're looking at multiple levels. Remember, we're looking down from 100 miles up. So we're looking through layers of a lattice of some kind of 3D structure floating in space above this pyramid, which has been destroyed in part here, revealing some kind of circular substructure which is on this corner of the pyramid itself. And on the other corner, on this buttress, we have a pretty amazing form, which is so amazing that I want to get to it in its own right. When I saw this and I realized what it resembled, I could not resist. So I'll tell you what I did, all right? We call it the Castle of Barsoom, all right? Let's see, I'm looking. Okay. Call it the Castle of Barsoom. And let me give you a little background as to why we call it the Castle of Barsoom. Barsoom was a mythical planet built in the mind of Edgar Rice Burroughs, who was a very prolific dime novelist around the turn of the century into the early part of this century. One of his series was John Carter Goes to Mars. In his novelization, the fictional inhabitants of Mars called the place Barsoom. Suddenly finds himself appearing on another planet where the air is not so thin that he can't breathe it. Well, in Carl's early work, Cosmic Connection, Sagan tells the story of living as a boy in Brooklyn, and one afternoon, one evening, going out into an empty, vacant lot where a building had been torn down, decided that night to take his wife to dinner without asking. And he didn't get back. So the show came and went, and I did the show, and I'm talking about these images, and there are no images to be found on the web. And, you know, something kind of like describing a spiral staircase without waving your arms. It's hard. And an hour and a half went by, and eventually Keith wandered in and called me and said, oh, what's up? Got your message. Keith, we need images up. Art's screaming, I need images. So he put them up, and that night Art had Ed Dames on. And Ed Dames just happened to be talking about tetrahedra at Cydonia on Mars. Now, he was talking about a tetrahedron which is located off this image, or it's nowhere near here. And even more bizarre, he was talking about little homonuclei. Gosh, I can hardly even say that. It means small infant fetuses slowly awakening under the tutelage of Martian robots in this tetrahedral pyramid on Mars. But that's Ed Dames, all right? So Art gives him lots of airtime. Anyway, I won't tell you the stories that I can tell you about Ed Dames. I'll save that to when I come back next time. That'll be an incentive to get back the other side to Colonel Dames. Anyway, in the middle of Ed Dames' peroration about tetrahedron on Mars and little homonuclei being gently awakened by mothering robots, Keith gets this image up on the web. And Art takes one look at this, which of course is a tetrahedron, and he brings me up and he says, can you come on? I said, wait a minute, you got Ed Dames on. I said, never mind, can you come on? So he halts Ed Dames' interview to get me on to discuss this image. Now let me go back and draw up one other image, and then we'll compare them, all right? Because I want to show you how we work this up. And then what we're going to do is open this up to questions, because I could go through images and discussion for hours and hours and hours, and we have just slightly under an hour, and I want a good interplay of of people's feedback on what you've seen. So let me go get this last image here until we ask for more, until you ask for more. All right, this is the raw data. On the strip, on the first strip, we'll pop this up first, all right? Right here. This is the first strip that was taken on April 5th. It goes from up in the northern desert here, down across the face, just ends on the D&M pyramid, five-sided die. Notice that Malin nailed the face right in the middle of the strip. Not bad shooting. Anyway, in looking very carefully south of this mesa on the enhanced version, I noticed something right here. So now we'll diminish this, like so, and we'll pull this up. This is a portion of that strip. This is the mesa, all right, and this is the object, which is a stunning ruin of an ancient tetrahedron. Here's the apex, here's a point, here's a point, here's a point, and you simply draw the lines, and there is a tetrahedron, which you're looking almost straight down on, with one of the walls, the southern wall, which is protected, and part of the northwestern wall, still remaining with lots of junk and detritus and debris inside. And then along the base, there is this most astonishing series of very regular geometric forms. Remember what I did with Tammy? They go bing, 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 bing. And they're all the same width, and they have little shadows, and they're three-dimensional forms, and parts of them seem to have other rubble and wreckage, but they're an incredible ordered geometric array looking something like a zipper. You don't suppose this is what zipper gate is really all about, do you? On the Martian surface at the base of an obvious tetrahedral form. Well, this got really interesting, so I went back to our diagrams and I made this graphic to put on the web. This is the one that we uploaded that night. And what I did was created an enhancement based on the maps. This is the Cydonia geometric relationship map, a little fuzzy because this thing is not in focus. All right. Little fuzzy, but located down here between the D and M of the face, right below this mesa, right there, was the little guy. All right. So this is where it lives, and lo and behold, if you connect the face and the D and M with the line that is part of our geometry, this tetrahedron sits 19.5 degrees off that line. In other words, another recursion of the circumscribed tetrahedral angle of the tetrahedron in a sphere. At some point, these guys really thought we were really, really, really dumb, and we needed lots and lots of reiteration to get it. And they were right. We won't mention any names. So what I did up here is I simply reconstructed, using this as the base model, this form over the image of the ancient tetrahedron on Mars. I put it up on the website, and Art absolutely freaked out. He said, well, you know, Dick keeps telling me to see these things, and I can't see this, and I can't see that. But damn it, there's a tetrahedron on Mars. And Ed Ames was just talking about a tetrahedron. Well, he went into orbit. And he stayed in orbit for the last 2 weeks. The other night, he was describing some of this stuff on Mars. And he said, I see buildings without roofs, and I see walls, and I see ruins, and I mean, he's going on, he's sounding a lot like me, actually. And it all depends on who you hang out with, I guess. The point is that Art finally got it. And because Art gets it, and the authority syndrome, an awful lot of people will go to the web, have gone to the web, have looked at this, have done the image processing we've done. We've actually put up a little image enhancement 101 to show people, look, Mom, you know, nothing up my sleeves, you know, no secret pictures, no fake pixels, no, it's just straightforward, stupid image processing with very low-tech tools. Now, we can get a little fancier, and we are to see what we can see that we can't see with the low-tech tools, but in fact, most of what is up there, in fact, all of what is up there at the moment, is done with Photoshop and just very simple techniques, like anti-aliasing. Anybody know what anti-aliasing is? Thank you. Now, I can only translate that. Anti-aliasing, when you see a very enlarged, in fact, I can show you. Don't you love show and tell? I can actually show you what anti-aliasing is, all right? This is a line, right? If I go in, remember it's made up of pixels, so if you make it too big, you get what are called the jaggies, the stair-step effect. What anti-aliasing simply does is in the computer is asked to vote among the surrounding pixels, and it converges on an average of the surrounding pixels, giving you a median or a straight line where before there were jagged edges. So basically, the only enhancement we're doing with these pictures to show you this detail is we're smoothing up the jagged edges. We're not adding new information, we're not taking new information away, we're simply putting it in a form that the human eye, the untrained, in many cases, human eye, can more readily see. Okay. I have one more, and then we're going to open it up to some discussion. Because when the third strip came in, we were looking at it, and I had a couple of emails, and lo and behold, we discovered up in the northern part of the terrain, this object, all right? Which is kind of quintessentially what we've been talking about all afternoon. This is now the third strip. Here's Cydonia, here's the city, here's the face, here's the strip. Here is our familiar tetrahedron ruin that I found with the zipper at the bottom, which, by the way, appears to be structural, foundational, almost like concrete buttresses, although I would be highly dubious that they're something as stupid as concrete. And then here's the third image, which runs from up here down to just southern part of the city. And down here, if I move this gently upward, you can see that there is a remarkable equilateral triangle whose orientation is exactly due north, south, and east, west. And when you go in and look at the